live from Nation Centre. This is NTV Tonight with James Smart.
Well, good evening everyone and welcome to the program. Our silent interpreter is Flora Atieno. We start where we should. The Presidential Task Force on the Review of Legal and Regulatory Framework Governing Religious Organizations has recommended the establishment of a Religious Affairs Commission under the new statutory framework to provide oversight over religious organizations in Kenya. The task force presented its report to President William Ruto, also proposing a review of the basic education curriculum to address the importance of religious tolerance and to inform and caution the public against religious extremism. NTV's Kevin Mutai begins our coverage on that with the highlights of the 188-page report.
President William Ruto received the report from the Presidential Task Force on the Review of Legal and Regulatory Framework Governing Religious Organizations, and in it are several proposals to deal with intolerant religious doctrines. The 18-member committee, chaired by Reverend Mutava Musimi, highlighted the lack of specific and comprehensive policy and legislative framework to regulate and guide the operations of religious organizations in Kenya. This has hampered effective regulation, oversight, transparent and responsible practices by religious organizations.
The next steps on the discussions on the policy framework that you have suggested, on the legal framework that you have suggested, will be informed by the broad views, perspectives, ideas, suggestions from the people of Kenya.
The report also shows that the existing criminal law regime does not comprehensively address the issue of religious extremism, cultism, and other crimes committed in the pretext of religion, rendering it difficult in preferring criminal charges against the involved persons. The task force recommends the establishment of a Religious Affairs Commission through an act of parliament to provide linkage between the government and religious institutions for oversight purposes. If adopted, then religious organizations must register and undergo vetting with the proper background checks on the applicants.
We will be taking the next steps in making sure that the good work you have done so far translates into protect our freedom of religion in Kenya, to make sure that we safeguard the place of religion in our country, and to also make sure that that freedom is accompanied by protection from those who want to abuse religion.
The task force visited Tanzania, Rwanda, United Kingdom and the United States of America to gather information on the design and implementation of a legal and regulatory framework for religious organizations. The task force was established in 2023 in the wake of the Shakahola massacre that caused the deaths of 429 people.
The use of religion to carry out very anti-religion things is what got our attention as a nation.
If fully implemented, then the report will help in taming rogue religious organizations engaging in misleading doctrines. Kevin Mutai, NTV in Mombasa.
Well, let's dig deeper and are now joined by Reverend Mutava Musimi, who is the chair of the Task Force on the Review of Legal and Regulatory Framework Governing Religious Organizations. Good evening, Reverend. Good to see you. Just first question for me. Could you just give me the highlights of that report that you've handed in today and how that would be significantly different with the environment that we have today of governing religion in the country?
Well, good evening. Well, I would say the highlight is the recommendation to have a specific law dedicated to religious organizations. As you probably are aware, currently all religious organizations come under the Societies Act, and there are huge gaps in that act that make it easy for people to do all manner of things, as we have seen. So when we went round, and we did go around, We studied, we did a lot of analysis, we visited all the counties, we listened to religious leaders, we listened to people in government, people in intelligence, and so on and so forth. It was quite obvious that the Societies Act, as it is today, will not sufficiently address the issues that we are now dealing with. I mean, mind you, we must look at Shakahola against the historical backdrop of the bomb blast of 1998 that killed 220 people. Next week it will be 26 years. That was, of course, attacking the American embassy. You must think of the Garissa University College attack, the Westgate attack, the Dusit attack, and now Shakahola. So, I mean, there have been things happening, and it was time now to, and it's very good that the President did see the need now to give this assignment to somebody who could then make recommendations. And that's one of the many recommendations that we have made, Mr. Smart.
Right. Reverend, one of the criticism that has been on religious organizations, especially the proliferation of many, many churches, if you like, the question has been that the church has been unable to sort of safeguard itself against this proliferation of churches, and others would even take advantage of Kenyans. In that respect, then, are you confident that this proposal that you've put together, put forward, will solve this question, where it's a question of faith vis-a-vis a question of reason and governance?
Well, once you have a statute dedicated to religious organizations, it's a completely new ball game, because now the registration protocols change, standards change, and all manner of things that are normally required of registered organizations change. And so we are, for example, going to, in the interest of safeguarding the freedom, as the President himself rightly pointed out, it has been recommended that we use umbrella organizations to be the ones that bring about the self-regulations of the member churches in the case of the Christian sector. But that will not be enough. We also see the need to have government input. And that's why we are talking about a commission that then, through intelligence, if matters come up, that commission that has religious people sitting in it, government people sitting in it, but led by the religious sector in the chair, so that there is a kind of a convergence of government and the religious sector, so that the information that is gathered doesn't just sit in some place. That it is analyzed, it is actionable, and the religious sector itself is involved. So you have self-regulation, but you also have the arm of government involved in this convergence of responsibility.
Right, Reverend. How would you say, for those who would want to push back against these recommendations and say, first, government has no place in religious matters, self-regulation was working, and in fact, sort of the big churches or the big organizations or churches, if you like, are trying to get rid of the small ones, if you like. How do we deal with that? How do you sort of answer that pushback?
You can't have your cake and eat it. You can't say that it's not working, and then at the same time, if a solution is fronted, you then ask, how is it going to work? What we observed is, as you rightly say, a proliferation of churches, especially. Let's talk about churches, and I'm sure it's also happening with other faiths, but especially churches. And you have all manner of churches. I don't need to say more. We have seen them, and not always sure about the leadership, the training, if any, the calling, if any, and so on and so forth. So if you let it as is, you are going to end up with Shakahola today and another Shakahola tomorrow. So there has got to be, government can't just sit and watch, because it has a responsibility of safeguarding those that are worshipping in that church and others that are not, but might be affected. And our assignment was, how do you deal with this problem without taking away the freedoms that these institutions are given by the Constitution? And that's why we said the only way you can do it is demand that they join umbrella organizations, even that they don't have to comply because they are free not to join, but incentivize them so that they see the need to join. And then create a commission where, as I said, and the risk of repeating myself, you have a commission, let's say, of about 9 people, 5 of whom are from the religious sector, and let's say 4 from government. You got to have intelligence people out there. You got to have people who have the capacity to say what sort of, how decisions made can be enforced, with, of course, the involvement of the religious sector, so that it's a delicate balance. Let's be honest, it's a very delicate balance, but it's a proposal, and it will go out for public hearing, and let's see what the Kenyans say. I think that's why we're having this interview.
Absolutely, and my final question to this is exactly from where you stopped your final answer is, do you think there is enough political will to see this through? Do you think the country is ready for such a radical proposal to essentially have a legal framework that hasn't existed before to manage what is essentially has been left a matter of faith for the last 50, 60 years?
If you tell me that you are scared of cure that has been proposed, I'm more scared of the dangers that I see after Shakahola. I went to Shakahola, and I come from the church sector. I know what I saw as General Secretary of NCCK for 14 years, and what I saw coming. And if you tell me that government just sits and watches, that's very scary. There must be a way of finding a solution. And this is a proposal. It may not be the best proposal, but let's put it out there. Let us discuss it. Let us discuss it and finally come up with an instrument that will deal with a problem that is now beginning to become a really serious problem.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Reverend Mutava Musimi, Chair, Task Force on the Review of Legal Regulatory Framework on Funding Religious Organizations. Thank you very much for your time. Obviously, this is just the beginning, and there would be many, many more questions around this and the public participation, of course, over these regulations that have been proposed by this commission. Now, tonight, concern is rife in the political circles over claims of a possible impeachment motion against the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. The DP is said to be under close scrutiny after several officials in his office were grilled by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, in connection to the protests that have rocked the country. NTV's Brian Mushiri now reports on the issue that's threatening to split the mountain region as the DP's defenders vow to protect him.
Sources have told NTV that a meeting was held on Saturday night at the house of a recently appointed cabinet secretary where the idea of an impeachment motion against Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was mooted. In the alleged meeting, a total of 21 members of the National Assembly, majority of whom were from the Mount Kenya region, were in attendance. Further, the recently appointed cabinet secretary is said to have told the sitting that President William Ruto was reportedly tired of being held at ransom by his DP. Those allegedly pro this impeachment motion say that Gachagua has grossly violated the constitution as they further poke holes into his conduct, adding that Gachagua undermines his boss, President William Ruto. Sources intimate that following the meeting, 3 close aides of Deputy President Gachagua were on Tuesday grilled by the police over their alleged link to the recent youth-led protests, further taking the war to Gachagua's doorstep. The individuals are said to have recorded a statement with the Directorate of Criminal Investigations DCI at Karen Police Station over claims of infiltrating and financing the protests that forced President William Ruto to make radical concessions, among them dropping the Finance Bill of 2024. NTV is also aware that the initial list had 5 staffers but was reduced to 3 after the DCI cleared 2 others. Efforts to confirm these allegations from the Deputy President's Communication Service proved futile as our calls and texts went unanswered. This seems to have irked a section of members of parliament within the Deputy President's corner. Githunguri Member of Parliament Gathoni Wamushoba says that even though she is not a confidant of Gachagua, the DP should not be harassed.
They're just looking for a reason to divert attention from the ongoing protests that are happening in Kenya to individuals so that they can fix individuals. Hiyo maneno ya Deputy President na impeachment, hiyo tunawagojea. Hatutakubali. We are not going to allow anybody to victimize anybody just because he says he loves his community or he is talking for his community.
Nominated Member of Parliament Sabina Chege says that it is pretty early for impeachment talks to be had, adding that should the president have any issue with his deputy, he should come out and tell Kenyans.
The priorities are upside down for this government. Why would you think of an impeachment instead of thinking how do you sort out Parliament, how do you sort out the many problems that Kenyans have? We have a failed finance bill, so how do we recover from it?
However, the DP is confident have challenged his opponents to come out clear and state their agenda. Embakasi North Member of Parliament James Gakuya, while in an interview on a vernacular radio station, alluded to the fact that a Kiambu County Member of Parliament has been collecting signatures for an impeachment motion. He insinuated the same to us.
If you go to position, being a majority leader, being chairman for budget committee, president was reconstituting his cabinet, and if you think you are so important to the president, I don't think there is a reason why he could not be appointed this time loud.
Whoever feels that that is the way to go, we kindly tell them, bring it on, we will deal with it.
Political analyst Javas Bigambo says that any grounds for impeachment should be solid.
If the deputy president has grossly violated the constitution or on grounds of gross misconduct, or where there are reasonable grounds to believe that he has seriously offended the constitution or acted in a manner that is contrary to the expectations of the law, then such may provide sufficient grounds for the impeachment.
It is now a matter of wait and see if indeed that impeachment motion does indeed make it to the floor of the House, with the debate already threatening to change the course of political discourse in the country. Brian Mushiri, NTV, Nairobi.
And you're watching NTV Tonight. We have plenty more on the other side of the break. Don't go too far.
Welcome to the world of casino games on 1xBet. Discover the wide variety of exciting slot games for every taste. Take your chances and let the luck be on your side. Slot games on 1xBet, where fortune awaits.
Huyo hapo ni Max akiimport bills, lakini yuko in a tight fix like his favorite pair of tight sweatpants. Working capital solution from Stanbic Bank in a come through. Sasa and expand his fashion empire to the max. Literally, grow your biashara and unlock your horizons with our payments and collections, vehicle and asset financing, unsecured bid bonds, LPO financing, insurance, cross-border solutions, and so much more. Stanbic Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
Can we understand an unspoken language? Itaweza sema habari ya asubuhi. Can it be a way to savor each moment? Sisi tunajua it can start lifelong stories. Be the center of celebrations and so much more. The more the milk, the better the chai. Chai kweli in a Brookside Dairy Best.
Welcome back. You're watching NTV Tonight. Now, President William Ruto has nominated Dorcas Oduor for the position of Attorney General. If approved by the National Assembly, Oduor, who is currently serving as Secretary of Public Prosecution, will become Kenya's first female Attorney General. The head of state also nominated Beatrice Askul Moe to the Ministry of East African Community Affairs and Regional Development docket.
Seasoned legal practitioner and longtime State Counsel Dorcas Odur is set to make history as Kenya's first female Attorney General should her nomination be approved by the National Assembly. If successful, Odur will succeed Justin Muturi, who has been nominated to serve as Public Service Cabinet Secretary. Dorcas is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and holds a Master of Arts in International Conflict Management, a Bachelor of Laws and a Diploma in Law from the Kenya School of Law. Rebecca Miano was initially nominated as Attorney General but was later reassigned to the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife.
We want to thank you, Lord, for the gift of life, of preservation.
Once confirmed by the National Assembly Committee on Appointments, Odur will become the government principal legal advisor. She will also represent the national government in court or in any other legal proceedings to which the national government is a party other than criminal proceedings. She will also perform any other functions conferred on the office by an Act of Parliament or by the President. Odur has had a decorated career in the legal profession, having served as Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions and Head of Economic, International and Emerging Crimes Departments. She also worked as the Deputy Chief State Counsel and as a State Counsel for the Department of Public Prosecution at the then Office of the Attorney General. She was a member in various agencies' commissions, including as a chairperson of the Board of Review on Mentally Insane, that is the Criminal Psychiatric, Assisting Counsel at Kiwami Commission on Land Clashes, Assisting Counsel at the Bosir Commission on the Goldenberg Affair. Apart from that, she was the Assisting Counsel Kiruki Commission on Atur Brothers, just to mention a few. The head of state has also nominated Beatrice Askul to the Ministry of East African Community Affairs, EAC, and Regional Development. It was the only pending slot that was yet to be filled since the president started reconstituting his cabinet. Askul previously served as the County Executive Committee member for Water Irrigation, Agriculture, and Land Reclamation in Turkana County. Until her nomination, she was a member of the ODM Party's National Elections Coordinating Committee. Rozongoi, NTV.
Well, pockets of violence were witnessed in Kitengela, Kajiado County, and Karatina in Nyeri County when protesters took to the streets for the now weekly anti-government protests. And as Margaret Kimathi reports, law enforcement agents were quick to contain the violence in both counties.
Anti-riot police deployed tear gas to disperse anti-government protesters in Kitengela, Kajiado County. The demonstrators blocked part of the Nairobi-Namanga highway with stones and lit bonfires before police intervened. Security in the town was intensified with a contingent of officers from various units, including prisons and plainclothes officers patrolling the area. At least 10 protesters were arrested in Kitengela as those who tried to capture the events by phone were confronted by the police. Groups of young men armed could be seen in town, claiming that they were protecting businesses against goons that have been looting and causing chaos. Since the beginning of anti-government protests, Kitengela and Rongai areas have become a hotspot for demonstrations. At least 10 people have died, dozens have suffered gunshot wounds, and properties worth millions have been destroyed. A similar situation was witnessed in Karatina, Nyeri County, with protesters barricading the Karatina-Nyeri highway with stones and bonfires, forcing the anti-riot police to use tear gas to clear the busy road. Traders were forced to shut their businesses after the chaos broke out. Only a few vehicles were seen ferrying passengers after the police cleared the barricaded highway. Following a series of protests in Karatina town, Kikuyu Council of Elders has called for dialogue among Mount Kenya leaders, while alleging that some leaders in the region are sponsoring the protest in Karatina. The elders say the protests are intended at tarnishing DP Rigathi Gashagua's name.
It appears like they are not Gen Z demonstrations. I've seen a poster posted there talking about coffee and talking about alcohol and other things. I have not seen Gen Zs discuss those issues in other places. So they are homing some narratives here in Karatina to deliberately attack someone, and we are suspecting they are targeting the vice president.
We are urging politicians to sit down with the elders. We see where the problem is so that we can move forward and solve the problem. We know there are problems.
Margaret Kimathi, NTV.
Now, members of the Wajir County Assembly resorted to blows and kicks after disagreeing on the proposed county budget. The ward representatives who had been recalled from the recess to deliberate on the county budget took on each other as the opponents of the budget moved to paralyze business in the assembly. The group attempted to halt proceedings by seizing the maize, but security personnel, with the help of other members, intervened. Journalists were also not spared this wrath of the angry MCAs who ensured that they were thrown out of the chambers. Well, that's the state of the nation. You're watching NTV Tonight. Taking a short break at this point. I'll be right back with plenty more.
Dettol Skincare combines the trusted protection of Dettol with 2 times moisturizers to protect my skin from germs and keeps my skin soft with a beautiful fragrance. Beautiful skin is germ-free skin.
For 25 years, Dimkes DT Sacco has been transforming lives and empowering communities. This year, we celebrate an incredible milestone: 25 years of success, trust and growth. Dimkes DT Sacco is built on the strength of faith through the Anglican Church of Kenya, Diocese of Mount Kenya South. Join us today and unlock a world of financial opportunities, low interest rates, flexible saving plans, and smart investment options. Visit our website or call us on 0111 033 100. Dimkes DT Sacco, celebrating 25 years of financial excellence.
My skin is my identity and deserves care made specially for me. New Nivea Radiant and Beauty Advanced Care with 5 oils and 5 vitamins helps reduce appearance of stretch marks in just 2 weeks for your shade of beautiful.
Welcome to the world of casino games on 1xBet. Discover the wide variety of exciting slot games for every taste. Take your chances and let the luck be on your side. Slot games on 1xBet, where fortune awaits.
Well, time for business. Now, members of parliament have cut their travel budget and expenses by 300 million shillings in the Supplementary Appropriations Bill 2024-25, with significant budget cuts this financial year. This Supplementary Appropriations Bill has huge deficits that now trims the overall budget to 3.844 trillion shillings compared to the 4 trillion shilling shy budget read in June. Here's how other key appropriations compare. Well, total budget cuts have been trimmed to 147.75 shillings. Recurrent budget cuts now stand at 39.26 shillings, and development spending cuts now stand at 108.48 shillings. Appropriations in aid projections have been revised upward by 48.68 shillings to 474.66 shillings. And here's how it will affect the overall budget. The national budget will now reduce to 3.84 trillion shillings, with a total revenue projections of 3.106 trillion shillings. Well, moving on, our founders, drawn from 10 startups, will battle it out at this year's Google for Startups Accelerator Africa, a program that will prepare them to secure follow-on funding from Google's global network of investors. This year's cohort features 10 innovative startups from Kenya, Nigeria, Rwanda, and South Africa, selected from nearly 1,000 applications. Highlighting the remarkable talent and creativity in the African tech ecosystem, travel startup Triply Business Management Solutions Nakili and social funds collection application Nobuk will represent Kenya in the program designed to support their growth. They will receive direct access to the expertise of Google mentors and seasoned entrepreneurs who have navigated this startup path. Right now, the Kenya Wildlife Service, together with stakeholders in the tourism sector, are on a mission to eliminate over 1 million house crows in the coast region. The invasive birds have been categorized as a menace, troubling the hospitality as well as becoming a pest to other bird species in the region. The technical committee, led by KWS, met in June, agreed to use the stallicide poison to kill the crows by December this year. NTV's Kevin Mutai also reports that the decision to cull the birds is aimed at prohibiting their migration outside the coast region.
The Indian house crow, which invaded Kenya from Zanzibar in 1947, have since multiplied their population and are continuously breeding in the coast region, but dominantly in Mombasa, Kilifi, Kwale and Lamu counties.
Right now it is estimated that we have about 2 million crows within this ecosystem, meaning the number of crows we have is actually equivalent to the population of Mombasa, if not more. Now the crows are very invasive and birds which disturb in many ways. They are noisy. They release their wastage sometimes on people.
In March this year, NTV brought you the story of devastation that these birds cause, and now the process of culling the crows has kicked off after the Kenya Wildlife Service officials met with veterinarians specialized in house crow control and stakeholders in the tourism industry. In the meeting held on June 7, 2024, the KWS Director for Wildlife and Community Service, Charles Musyoki, said the crow eradication program was of high public interest while affirming the government's commitment in killing 1 million birds by December 2024.
It is not possible to just eliminate them in one go. So there will be a process of conditioning them to be through the process of pre-baiting, so that then they are used to feeding at that particular time. And then in one go, they'll be poisoned across the entire region.
In Kilifi, for instance, there's a team mapping out their feeding and nesting zones. This means that the pre-baiting will be done in their feeding areas, after which their carcasses will be collected from the nesting areas after dying from the poison. According to some of the experts involved, meat will be used as bait for a period of 1 week before lacing the meat with stallicide poison to be imported from the United States. The company, identified as Little Kenya Gardens, is the sole entity certified by Pest Control Poisons Board and issued with a permit to import the poison.
They'll have to be conditioned to feed at a particular place at a particular time. And that will continue until when the poisoning will actually be done. And so they will not be able to know the difference between the poison and the bait that has actually been used to, the meat that was actually used to feed them during that time. Also, this will happen in different places. You know, they are very territorial, and therefore effort will be put to identify the different zones where they are. So this is actually ongoing now in Kilifi, where the team is ready and just waiting an okay and acquisition of the poison, so that the dumping sites and places where ordinarily we find a lot of the crows, we're going to use those sites as the baiting places.
However, the cost of the exercise remains a problem, with stakeholders estimating that it will cost more than 10 million shillings to acquire the poison and other resources needed.
Getting rid of crows cannot be left to individual hotels. It cannot be left to individual units or individual partners. I repeat, this is something which should be taken very seriously by the Ministry of Tourism. It is something which should be taken very seriously by the gubernatorial government. They should all be involved in this exercise.
These avian birds have caused mayhem in the region, becoming a menace, especially in the tourism and hospitality industry. The proprietors in the hotel sector, including small eateries in the region, have also complained of their customers being harassed by the birds.
Wanakuwa wengi wakati tuseme wa mchana, ama saa zingine pengine kama saa 4, saa hiyo wanajua mnatayarisha samaki, nyama, matumbo, wanakuwa ndio wengi. Hasa usipokuwa mwangalifu ndo ana kipande cha nyama, hasara ni kwako. Umenunua tuseme nyama ya 500, haya kunguru akiondoka tuseme na pisi kama 3. Unajua umeachwa wewe peke yako, sasa hujui utafanya nini.
It is very difficult for us to be investing and improving on the products, wanting them to become 5-star, yet we cannot be able to take care of a simple menace like the crows. To me, the crows is like garbage. The same way the county government takes responsibility to get rid of garbage is the same way the government, both the national one and the regional one, should be thinking about elimination of crows. It's an emergency, it's a disaster, and that is how it should be treated.
Crows are also known to kill indigenous animal species in the region, including small birds, creating an imbalance in the ecosystem.
They are aliens to this particular region. Okay, so they invaded this particular region. They have been neglected for quite some time, and now it's becoming a time bomb, not only to the hospitality industry, even to the aviation industry. As a matter of fact, being birds, they are carriers of dangerous avian diseases. If you are doing farming in the coast region today, and don't be surprised when you keep losing your flocks, even if you vaccinate them, because these birds are carriers of many avian diseases. And a lot of avian diseases go by wind. So if you have wind blowing in a particular direction, you find that you can't keep your good stocks of chicken or other birds, because then they die susceptible to this particular exposure to these particular viruses.
Zingine wanachafua vyombo, wanakuja wanakunya hizo vyombo, customer akiona hivyo anaona kama mimi ni mchafu, anaondoka. Zingine wanakunyata hicho chakula, usipofunika vizuri utapata pia hata ni aibu. Sasa mimi kwa upande wangu mimi waelimitiwe kama wanaweza kuelimitiwa.
In most of the hotels now, we are trying to do our own baiting, we are trying to do our own reduction of their presence. Sometimes we even employ security people with a catapult, trying to chase them away. The most uncomfortable time in a hotel now is between noon and about 3 o'clock, when we are either giving people lunch or in the afternoon at 3:30 when we are doing the tea service. Because then they are hovering everywhere, just making everybody very uncomfortable.
The stallicide poison has been deemed safe for use by scientists and researchers who have expressed confidence in its effectiveness. They assure the public that there are no risks to human life or other animal species that might consume the deceased crows. To prevent unintended contact with non-targeted animal species and environment, the carcasses will be carefully gathered and interred in mass graves.
Culling of the crows is expected to reduce their population by approximately 50%, hence reducing pressure on the fragile coastal ecosystem. According to researchers, poisoning is the most effective way as they target to eliminate 1 million birds. Kevin Mutai, NTV in Mombasa.
Well, that Kevin Mutai story brings us to another break. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be updating you on sports.
Sports News brought to you by Safaricom, a proud sponsor of Team Kenya at the Olympics.
The beauty soaps I know don't give germ protection.
Dettol Skincare does. It combines the trusted protection of Dettol with 2 times moisturizers to protect my skin from germs and keeps my skin soft with a beautiful fragrance. Beautiful skin is germ-free skin.
Welcome to the world of casino games on 1xBet. And let the luck be on your side. Slot games on 1xBet, where fortune awaits.
Kenya, twende mbele. NCBA, go for it.
Ever dreamt of owning a piece of Diani?
Introducing Bustani Gardens by Pazarina Holiday Homes.
Located 1.5 kilometers off Lunga Lunga Road, grab yourself a prime parcel from as low as 850,000 Kenya shillings with available water, electricity, graded roads, ready title deeds and site visit at your convenience. Contact us today on 0712 110 110 or visit our offices at Morningside along Gong Road.
Sports News brought to you by Safaricom, a proud sponsor of Team Kenya at the Olympics.
Well, welcome back. Now, despite making her first appearance in a World Championship, African silver medalist in the 800 meters Lilian Odira is not fazed by the big occasion of competing for Kenya at the Olympics. Odira, who shocked the country by winning the National Olympic Trials, is targeting to reach the final and hopefully sweep the podium places. Our sports reporter Elijah Oko tells us more.
For 25-year-old Lilian Odira, 2024 has come as a surprise. At the beginning of the year, her main target was to represent Kenya at an international championship. Her hard work and determination on the track has brought more than she had imagined.
It's an honor from God, and the hard work that we've been going through with my coaches, my training mates, the support I'm getting from my family, and until I've managed to make it to the Africa Championship, All Africa, and now to the Olympics. So I think it's a good motivation to me.
Odira began her season with representing Kenya at the African Games in March, where she got to the final but failed to bag a medal, finishing 4th. However, the disappointment in Ghana didn't deter her, and instead it catapulted her to a silver medal at the African Athletics Championship on the 23rd of June.
I think there is nothing much that I've changed apart from training. Like, you have to push harder because now you're a limelight, you're on the medias, you're on the TVs, so people expect a lot from you. So you have to change your training. It has to be more hard, but you do it perfectly because you don't want to let down your people. The fans, they'll not understand.
Having been a national champion back in high school and a bronze medalist in the 800 meters at the East African Secondary School Games, Odira always knew that she would one day represent Kenya and kept on drawing inspiration from the more established Kenyan athletes.
I've always been watching Helen Obiri, the likes of Faith Kipyegon, because they're mothers and they've made it. So I'm always like, I want to be like them one day. And yeah, I know in some years to come, I'll also have achieved what I'm aiming for.
Before 14th June 2024, Odira had not run a sub-2 in the two-lap race, but on the day, she stopped the timer at 1 minute 59.27 seconds to set a new personal best and book her slot to the Olympics.
Odira has never been to any Diamond League, but she's at the Olympics, has never been to the World Championship. So this is a person that can surprise many people.
The Summer Games in Paris are going to be her first championship outside Africa, and she hopes to repay the individuals who showed faith in her with a good performance by getting to the final.
My dad has been a good support to my talent, and since I started this career, he has always been there to me. My mom also, because every moment she always make that prayer to me, and I think her prayers have been answered, and there's still more to come. Yeah.
Round 1 of the women's 800 meters at the Paris Olympics begins on the 2nd of August at 8:45 p.m. Elijah Ogo, NTV Sport.
Well, now the first batch of Kenya athletes have arrived in Paris for the Summer Games. The team is led by world champion and record holder in 1500 meters race, Faith Kipyegon, who's one of the captains. Team Kenya arrived in France this morning after leaving Kenya Monday evening, shortly minutes before Shujaa returned to the country. Some of the athletes are former world champion Timothy Cheruiyot, 10,000-meter world record holder Beatrice Chebet, and 800 meters world champion Mary Moraa. The team includes the 800 meters, women's 800 meters team, the men's 10,000 meters athletes, the men's and women's 1500 meters runners, and the women's 5,000 meters team. Athletics will start on the 1st of August with a 20-kilometer walking race where Samuel Gadimba will battle.
With a lot of confidence. I know the competition is so high, but the training as well was perfectly well. Our main target for the rounds, the semi-finals, into the finals, the main focus now is to reach the finals. For those who are into the final, like 10,000 meters, the main focus now is to deliver medals to the Kenya. So the preparation was very well.
Well, that's to say that that's when the Kenya Olympics would start, on the 1st of August. But for Kenyans are set to cheer and witness Team Kenya at the 33rd edition of the Summer Games after winning tickets courtesy of Safaricom through M-Pesa at Visa. The four are Moniki Munuhe from Nyahururu, Abdirahman Faisal, Abdinasir Bare, and Michael Shege Karaoke from Nairobi. Athletics will start on the 1st of August with a 20 kilometers race with the track race beginning on the 2nd. The four will have a chance to see and cheer Kenya athletes while also experiencing what Paris has to offer. Safaricom is one of the sponsors of the Kenya team at the Olympics, having sponsored the team for 30 million Kenya shillings. The trip package includes flights, accommodation, food, drinks, and stadium tickets for various Olympic events.
I hope the trip is everything you've ever...
Looking forward to see Team Kenya perform, and I'm hoping that our team will be able to bring some medals home.
You'll be accompanied with your partner, you'll have full accommodation, you will have entry to all the different events at the Olympics, and you'll also be eligible to have some fantastic tours of Paris.
Pretty much unlocked financial inclusion in Kenya, and together our converging objectives are driving digital payments for everyone, everywhere.
Now, Shuja's Kevin Wekesa is of the opinion that the Olympics experience was the best preparation for the new season that Shuja could have acquired as the team gears to return to the HSBC 7 Series. Shuja returned to the country Monday night and were given a hero's welcome despite finishing 9th. Kenya was competing against 11 of the best 7 teams in the world and were pulled with HSBC finalist Argentina and highly ranked Australia to get the Samoa. Coach Kevin Wambua revealed his pleasure of facing high-level opposition that gave the young team, with an average age of 24 years, a glimpse of what to expect next season. Shuja recorded 2 wins against Uruguay and Samoa after losing all group games. For now, the team will go on a holiday break before returning to camp to start preparations for the new season.
Very positive, a lot of learnings, a lot of lessons we've picked up in Olympics, and also just the mood. I mean, playing against the top 11 teams in the world is no easy feat.
We're just building up for the circuit next season, and I think the Paris Olympic has been a good build-up to the HSBC circuit for 2025. Yeah.
Sports News brought to you by Safaricom, a proud sponsor of Team Kenya at the Olympics.
Well, thank you very much for your company and for your viewership. My name is Jess Matt. Have a lovely night.
This is NTV.
5 questions with Sarah. Hi guys. Wow, Sarah, your skin is glowing. What beauty soap do you use? I use a beauty soap that keeps my skin soft, moisturized, and protected from germs. But Sarah, the beauty soaps I know don't give germ protection.
Dettol Skincare does. It combines the trusted protection of Dettol with 2 times moisturizers to protect my skin from germs and keeps my skin soft with a beautiful fragrance. Beautiful skin is germ-free skin.
New Downy perfume collection. Sometimes I need a scent to keep me calm amongst the chaos, or a light fragrance that keeps me fresh in the heat, or a perfume that feels elegant all day and into the night, lasting longer than expensive perfumes. New Downy, lavender comfort, sunrise fresh, and sweet elegance, freshness that inspires confidence. Your dreams have come true. Try it for only 20 shillings.
Lakini vile hii ekonomi imetufinya, ilinibidi kubadilisha sabuni nikatumia ingine rahisi. Bala, ilibidi nioshe kila kitu mara 2. Sikuwa na otherwise, nikarudia Ariel.
Ariel, usafi bora kwa mwosho mmoja tu.
New Downy refill pouches, lasting longer than expensive perfumes. Cut, store, and no need to add water. Serve with a Downy refill.
My name is Bob Karina, Chairman of FIDA Investment Bank, and I am also the Chairman of Rwanda Stock Exchange. We are looking forward to seeing you on 3rd of August at Tilisi in Gecha, Limuru, to come and hear about the Season 4 presentations that will cover the balancing act between personal growth and family responsibilities. It will be an exciting event and we'll cover many things. There will be things about parenting, there is about challenges in bringing up families, and we'll cover things like what are your responsibilities as a father in the family. So we are looking forward to seeing you and hope you will come and listen to the advice that we shall give.
Get ameniweka huru as your skiza team. Dial star 811 star 931 hash.
Skiza na Nation.
So I love cooking, so I try to cook every now and then when I can, just to bring the relaxation bit. Something I think many people laugh at. I also like watching chick flicks and Nigerian movies. They crack me up, they just release the stress away.
NTV, turning on your world.
For a person like me, for an exile like me, there's this attachment to the past. That past includes your land, your people, your culture, your language, everything. And when you know that you cannot go back for sure, for 100%, there's this dream. You go back in your dream. I have this dream over and over. I go to a cemetery where my mother, my grandmother, grandparents, and ancestral relatives were buried. I would walk in. It's a long walk, very long, and I would spot different tombs of people I knew, and I would try to find their tombs. I would ask myself, it's why I couldn't find, and I would realize, oh, I was away when they were buried, and I would look for someone to show me their places and couldn't find, and I wake up. As a little child, I was taught by my grandmother is that the only best thing that you can actually do to your loved ones who have passed away is to pray for them. When I pray, I use that hat that was hand-woven by my grandmother. In Urumqi, if I wear it every day, it is a sign of separatism because I'm showing myself as a separate person from the Chinese diaspora.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Your national identity is a sign of separatism, and your set of belief system is a sign of extremism. If they find one prayer rug, you're doomed. I work as a journalist at Voice of America. I have been using a pen name, a pseudonym, as Asim Kashgarian. I was in a safe country in the US. I didn't fear that I would get easily hurt by using my real name, but I was more afraid that my family and friends and extended relatives back home would be targeted if I opened up, if I used my real name. I have been living under that fear for as long as I would say for at least 2 decades. When I was living in China, I didn't speak out against the government because I wanted to protect myself and my family. When I left China, I continued that. I tried to keep silent, still fearing. Did it help, like being silent, like using a fake name? I've seen friends, personal mentors, teachers, and some relatives being targeted. They had been interned, imprisoned, killed up until today. It was a summer party for employees. There's this music, laughter, and we had a lot of fun. And in this picture, the only person who's actually not in prison is me, and the rest, they're incarcerated. That photo is a reminder for me that my friends and colleagues are actually suffering.
There are about 11 million Uyghurs living in China. And it seems that evidence suggests that, at least 1 in 10 Uyghurs has been detained or arrested. The Chinese government has often targeted Uyghurs as a security concern. If you practice religion in a way that the Chinese government sees as not acceptable, you're an extremist, but that means you're also a separatist and you're also a terrorist. The region really was first kind of incorporated into a state based in China with the Qing Empire's conquest of the region in the 1750s. And when the Qing Empire came back to the region in the 1880s, it was incorporated as a province. It was given the name Xinjiang, which means new territory or new frontier.
We always prefer to call our homeland as East Turkestan, not Xinjiang. The Chinese government is not just repressing or putting Uyghurs by million in the concentration camp in East Turkestan. They're also repressing Uyghurs outside of China too. Because the Chinese government doesn't want world to know what's happening. Every Uyghur has connection to that genocide and that repression.
This is a land of harmony and stability, where people from various ethnic backgrounds live and work in peace and contentment.
I remember sitting in horse carts with my grandmother. She would say, "Oh, you don't see, my child. You are born at the best of times." When I was born in 1979, China began reform, and actually it was a very short-lived renaissance for the Uyghur life. The Uyghur language was kind of given some kind of autonomy until 1989.
The Tiananmen Square protests and the subsequent crackdown, you had general kind of backsliding on the allowing of political space, open freedom in any way. But in the Uyghur region, this was amplified by the fall of the Soviet Union. In the Uyghur region's public protest was immediately identified as nationalism or extremism. You have the Al-Qaeda attacks on the U.S., September 11, 2001. Essentially, the Chinese government, they begin trying to link Uyghurs to international Islamic terrorism.
Next up, we have Kasim Abdurrahim from Xinjiang University.
In the early 2000s, I was a university student. I attended regional and national English speaking competitions.
Live and learn is the motto I have adopted. I believe within education I will succeed and help others succeed.
After I graduated from university, I started the language training school. And it was unique because it was the only government-sanctioned, Uyghur-owned private language school in the capital city of Urumqi. I was considered to be an educator, an influencer, and person of pride among the Uyghurs. Some friends that I knew told me their stories of interrogation, even before I was interrogated. So I was aware of such things that were going on. It was very stressful because you don't know if they would let you go or if they would take you to detention facilities.
Amidst kind of the repression that followed the Olympics in the Uyghur region, we have an incident that takes place in a factory in southern China where several Uyghur workers are killed by Han workers. There's 3 days of chaotic violence in the city.
When the protest started in the evening, I was with my at least like 5 or 6 core staff, and we were going out to dinner. I saw Chinese women with 2 little kids coming at us. She asked to use one of our phones. I saw that she was very afraid, and I asked them if they wanted to stay in our school. On July 9th, during lunchtime, 7 Chinese police with plain clothes, but with weapons, came to my office. I thought that they were finally given an excuse to arrest me. At the end of the interrogation, the highest ranking police official would come in and sit in front of me, and he would lecture me. And then he would, in between, thank me for doing what I did, helping that Chinese woman and kids. When they returned me home, there were this 3 police officers, and one of them said, like, I can't figure this out, why we're sending you home. You would be disappeared today. That was the plan.
The riots that took place in July 2009 in Urumqi are a real watershed in the situation of Uyghurs inside China, because not only did it create an even stronger feeling in the state that Uyghurs presented a threat to stability, it created a lot of fear among Han Chinese.
The Chinese government started to arrest more people, and surveillance increased day by day, week by week.
So you have first these mass internment camps, and we start seeing the disappearance in mass of large swaths of the Uyghur population.
What we have seen is something on a scale that hadn't been seen before. China Cables is both a project and a set of documents. The documents came to us through a line of Uyghurs out of Xinjiang several years ago. Around that, we built an international journalism project. The most surprising thing about the whole documents set is that it's them, Chinese officials, openly admitting what they're doing. So the Chinese government's public position on the camps is that they are humane and they're educational. And they're designed, part of the security apparatus, to stop terrorism in the region.
事实上，新疆教培中心就是一所学校，所有的学员是免费吃住，人格尊严不受侵犯。
We've spoken to many of them. They have said, and this is the most chilling thing of all, they have said, we have been tortured, we have been electrocuted, we have been raped, about reprogramming us, they're about killing our culture. There's equally no argument over the fact that the violence in that region was awful in a short period of time. But what you're seeing is a response that is so out of kilter with the size of the violence.
In recent years, by holding high the banner of socialist rule of law, a legitimate struggle against terrorism and extremism has been waged in Xinjiang. The tendency of frequent terrorist activities has been effectively curbed.
美西方一些反华势力呢，罔顾新疆人民过上美好生活的事实，毫无底线、毫无道理、毫无依据的污名化、妖魔化新疆，甚至编造出新疆犯下种族灭绝罪和反人类罪的世纪谎言。
A few weeks before I went to Beijing, I sat down with a high-ranking Chinese official who told me that he was very happy to finally see that bad Uyghurs
be arrested and good ones like me be promoted.
You're telling me that I'm the good Uyghur, and you're happy that the bad ones are being rounded up, but those bad ones are exactly the same as me. So he was actually helping me to rethink my decisions in life. Should I keep suppressing and living here while so much is happening? Like people are being arbitrarily detained and I myself being constantly interrogated. And I'm also like seeing no guarantee for my safety. I was so-called chosen to be a representative of a Uyghur so-called minority in the national youth model selection.
When I was shaking hands with Liu Anchao, then the vice president of China, I knew that I was leaving the country in the same month.
I didn't want to leave my home country, whatever happens. That was how I grew up, but I didn't keep that promise.
I told my wife from the beginning that we would go to Dubai for a week travel. I told her that we were not returning while we were actually on our flight. From May to October in 2017, we went to Dubai and then Turkey, and then finally we were able to come to the US.
And I took a deep breath. I felt the breath, yes. And I looked at my wife and daughter. They were with me, and I was like, oh, finally free. I had to start all over again. And I didn't have any future. No social connections, no friends, no relatives, nothing. I told everyone back home that I was in New York pursuing an education in culinary arts. And all of a sudden, Education Bureau of Urumqi issued a notice telling me that if the legal representative of the school won't present himself in a matter of a few weeks, then we will cancel the school license. If I went back to China, I knew that I would be arrested. I was hoping to actually get some money while studying here from the school in Urumqi. I wouldn't be able to pay the tuition, and I wouldn't even be able to survive in New York. It was cheaper living around Washington, D.C. than New York. Plus, there's the largest Uyghur community in that area. So that kind of comforted us.
When you have a whole community of people or a whole society who are sharing traumatic experiences, you've got several complex layers. When we talk about collective trauma, we're talking both about the shared experiences of individuals, each of whom has been overwhelmed at one time or another by a sense of fear or threat or terror to themselves or people they care about. So there's collective trauma, there's collective resilience, there's collective healing.
For the past 5 years, I've suppressed it so much. You really have to work very hard to actually balance through exercise. If I stop exercising or running, I know that I would be lost sometimes, like mentally. Sometimes you just lie in your bed, but you can't just get up. You ask yourself, what is this? Oh, that's fear. As long as I can remember, I was very little. I was at my grandparents' house most of the time. She passed away in 2019 in February.
And I was in the US. When my grandmother was dying, there was one word that she uttered very clearly. And that was my name. Like, I know if I stayed there, my grandmother wouldn't even be able to know that I was alive. I would be probably in one of those prisons. My beat at VOA is news about Uyghurs and other ethnic minorities in China. Every time I cover news, do interviews, and read reports about the repression against the Uyghurs, it's always, like, to me, it's always reliving the trauma that I have lived. At the end, I would feel joy and comfort in doing this because I know that I am making some impact in letting the world know what is happening. I don't feel safe every day or any day because my closest relatives and friends and past colleagues, they are actually indirectly harassed. Chinese secret police actually asked one of my friends to contact me, and they said to my friend that they already know that I work for Voice of America, and they were interested in becoming my friends, quote unquote, and then I refused.
In America, you don't worry about police while you're walking in the street. You don't worry about police coming at you and checking your phone and looking for apps.
Anger doesn't solve a problem. Revenge doesn't solve a problem. And I have to set the right example, at least for my children. They should be able to learn stuff that has happened to their parents.
Martin Luther King said that equality, justice, and freedom is what everyone is entitled.
In the US, after I have been granted asylum, I had the freedom to actually choose and use my real name. My name is Qasim Abdurrahim Kashgar.